Patricia and David Stallings' story began in 1986. Patricia worked at a bookstore, while David, a typographer, frequently visited. Their relationship blossomed, and they married in 1988. In April 1989, they welcomed their son, Ryan. The family moved to a suburb of St. Louis, Missouri. Unfortunately, Ryan was often sick from birth. In early June 1989, Patricia spent 2 sleepless nights caring for her 4-month-old son, who was suffering from vomiting and breathing problems. Deciding to seek medical help, she set out for St. Louis Children's Hospital with the baby. On the way, Patricia got lost and ended up at Cardinal Glennon Hospital instead of her intended destination. In the circumstances, this didn't matter much, as they could also help the child here. The hospital conducted tests to determine the cause of the boy's illness. Ryan was lethargic and continued to vomit. The child underwent a complete medical examination, including blood and urine tests. Samples were sent to the hospital's laboratory, and soon the cause of the illness was identified. High concentrations of ethylene glycol, a colorless liquid used in industrial solvents and resins, were found in the boy's blood. Ethylene glycol poses a severe health risk when consumed in large quantities. It's crucial to note that this substance is not naturally produced by the human body. Therefore, its presence in a person's system can only result from external exposure. The discovery of ethylene glycol in 4-month-old Ryan's blood compelled the medical staff at Cardinal Glennon Hospital to immediately notify law enforcement and Missouri's Child Protective Services. Investigating how ethylene glycol could have entered the infant's system, police conducted a search of the Stallings home. In the basement, they found 2 containers of antifreeze, one of which was partially empty. It's well known that ethylene glycol is a key component of antifreeze. A theory emerged that Ryan had ingested ethylene glycol through antifreeze, but it seemed unlikely that a 4-month-old could have consumed it on his own. Suspicion fell on the boy's mother, Patricia. The investigators were puzzled about the possible motives for poisoning the child with antifreeze. Fortunately, after a week in the hospital, Ryan's condition improved. For safety reasons and during the ongoing investigation, Ryan was temporarily placed in foster care. Further inquiry revealed disturbing facts from Patricia's past. It turned out that Ryan wasn't her firstborn. 5 years before his birth and 3 years before meeting her current husband David, 17-year-old Patricia had already become a mother. At the time of these events, Patricia's first child was under the care of her sister. Child Protective Services had removed the baby about a year after birth due to neglect. The child was malnourished and dressed in rags. Patricia attributed this to her own dire circumstances and lack of funds for basic necessities. This information suggested possible negligence on Patricia's part regarding her children. While Ryan was in foster care, Patricia was allowed to visit him once a week under the supervision of a Child Protective Services representative. 3 days after the 6th visit, the boy again developed the previous symptoms: vomiting and difficulty breathing. Ryan was again taken to Cardinal Glennon Hospital, where tests showed an even higher level of ethylene glycol in his blood than before. Traces of this substance were also found on the neck of the bottle Patricia used to feed the child. It was also discovered that the Child Protective Services employee, contrary to instructions, had left Patricia alone with the child for some time during the visit. These circumstances led the police to conclude that Patricia had poisoned her son again when left alone with him. As a result, Patricia Stallings was arrested and charged with attempted murder. While Patricia was in custody, doctors at the clinic fought for little Ryan's life. Despite using ethanol as an antidote against ethylene glycol, the child's condition didn't improve. A week later, the boy died. As a result, the charges against Patricia were changed from attempted murder to first-degree murder. While in jail awaiting trial, Patricia learned unexpected news: she was pregnant. 6 months into her incarceration, she gave birth to a second son, named David Jr., or DJ. The newborn was immediately placed in foster care. Patricia's trial soon followed. Despite the lack of a clear motive, all evidence pointed to her guilt. The prosecutor sought the death penalty, but the court sentenced Patricia Stallings to life imprisonment. Upon hearing the verdict, her husband David fainted and was taken to the hospital. It seemed the story had ended, but a few months after the sentencing, something strange occurred. DJ, the child Patricia had given birth to while incarcerated, developed symptoms identical to those observed in the late Ryan: vomiting and difficulty breathing. The baby was urgently taken to St. Louis Children's Hospital for examination and treatment. Recall that at the beginning of our story, Patricia was heading to this hospital but mistakenly ended up at Cardinal Glennon Hospital. At St. Louis Children's Hospital, DJ was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder, methylmalonic acidemia, MMA. MMA impairs the body's ability to process food, especially proteins, and causes toxins to accumulate in the blood. This discovery raised a new question: could Ryan have died from MMA? Theoretically, yes. However, the presence of ethylene glycol in his system pointed to poisoning. Patricia Stallings' story was featured on the TV show. It caught the attention of biochemist William Sly, who, along with his colleague Dr. James Shoemaker, became interested in the findings of Cardinal Glennon Hospital's laboratory regarding the ethylene glycol content in Ryan's blood. The blood analysis was based on a retention time graph of the substance in a tube with inert gas. Each substance has its characteristic retention time and, consequently, a unique graph. According to the laboratory's conclusion, the retention time graph obtained from Ryan's blood analysis matched that of ethylene glycol. When Dr. Shoemaker personally examined Ryan's blood, he discovered propanoic acid instead of ethylene glycol, differing by just one carbon atom. This finding showed how easily these substances could be confused in a careless analysis. To test his hypothesis, Shoemaker sent blood samples containing propanoic acid to 7 different laboratories. The experiment results were shocking. 5 out of 7 labs mistakenly identified propanoic acid as ethylene glycol. This suggested that a similar error could have occurred at Cardinal Glennon's clinic, where the initial analysis was conducted. Simply put, the blood analysis method used could easily confuse deadly ethylene glycol with harmless propanoic acid, especially if not performed carefully. The question arises: where did the propanoic acid in Ryan's body come from? The answer is simple. It's naturally produced in the bodies of people with MMA, the very genetic disorder that Ryan's brother, DJ, suffers from. Assuming Ryan also had MMA, propanoic acid could have naturally been present in his blood, leading to the misinterpretation of the test results. After Dr. Shoemaker's findings were made public, a new trial was ordered. The initial blood test results of Ryan, indicating the presence of ethylene glycol, were sent for review to Professor Pierre Rinaldi from Yale University. After careful examination, he described them as garbage, expressing deep disappointment with the quality of the investigations in such an important case. Ultimately, Professor Rinaldi concluded that the child's death was not caused by ethylene glycol poisoning, as there was no ethylene glycol in the boy's system at all. It turned out that ethylene glycol had been mistakenly identified as propanoic acid. The likely cause of Ryan's death was the genetic disorder MMA, which was exacerbated by incorrect treatment with ethanol, which doctors used in an attempt to neutralize the suspected ethylene glycol. As a result of these discoveries, Patricia Stallings, who had spent 2 years in prison, was released. The state of Missouri dropped all charges against her related to the death of her son Ryan. Experts unanimously concluded that Patricia Stallings was not involved in poisoning her child. She subsequently filed a lawsuit against Cardinal Glennon's clinic and won the case. Her second son, DJ, thanks to a timely diagnosis, was successfully treated for MMA and returned to his parents. 2 factors played a key role in this story. First, Patricia mistakenly went to the wrong hospital from where she was originally headed. Perhaps at St. Louis Children's Hospital, Ryan would have been correctly diagnosed immediately, as happened later with his brother. Second, Patricia's pregnancy with her second child became an unexpected key to her release, as DJ's illness helped reveal the truth about what happened to Ryan. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the next video.